gonna start the Chaffinches and Sparrows. I know that last week we didn't have our story. I'm so sorry, but today I'm ready for it. So let's going to continue it. We were reading the BFG, and then we were when the BFG and Sophie goes into the palace, and the Queen invites them to have breakfast while the BFG is telling all that is going on with the other giants that are eating everyone around the world. So I think that they are going to have a plan to stop it, and that's what they want. That's why they wanted the Queen for. So let's see what happens today. The chapter is called The Plan. The head of the army and the head of the air force stood at attention beside the Queen's breakfast table. Sophie was still in her seat, and the BFG was still high up on his crazy perch. It took the Queen only 5 minutes to explain the situation to the military men. "I knew there was something like this going on, Your Majesty," the head of the army said. "For the last 10 years, we have been getting reports from nearly every country in the world about people disappearing mysteriously in the night. We had one only the other day from Panama. For the hearty taste," cried the BFG, "and one from Wellington in New Zealand." "For the booty flavour," cried the BFG. "What is he talking about?" said the head of the Air Force. "Work it out for yourself," the Queen said. "What time is it?" 10 a.m. In 8 hours, those 9 bloodthirsty brutes will be galloping off to gobble up another couple of dozen unfortunately wretches. They have to be stopped. We must act fast. "We'll bomb the blighters," shouted the head of the Air Force. "We'll mow them down with machine guns," cried the head of the army. I do not approve of murder," the Queen said. "But they are murderers themselves," cried the head of the army. "That's not a reason why we should follow their example," the Queen said. "Two wrongs don't make a right." "And 2 rights don't make a left," cried the BFG. "We must bring them back alive," the Queen said. "How?" the 2 military men said together. "They are all 50 feet high. They will knock us down like mine pins." "Wait," cried the BFG. "Hold your horseflies. Keep your skirts on. I think I has the answers to the maiden's hair." "Let him speak," the Queen said. "Every afternoon," the BFG said, "all these giants is in the land of Noddy." "I can't understand a word this feller says. Why doesn't he speak clearly?" "He means the land of Nod. It's pretty obvious." "Exactly. Every afternoon, all these mountain giants is lying on the ground, snuzzling away in a very deep sleep. They is always resting like that before they is galloping off to castle another helping of human beings." "Go on. So what?" "So, what you soldiers have to do is to creep up to the giants while they is still in the land of Noddy and tie their arms and legs with mighty ropes and wonky chains." "Brilliant," the Queen said. "That's all very well," said the head of the army, "but how do we get to the brutes back there? We can't load 50-foot giants onto trucks. Shoot them on the spot, that's what I said." The BFG looked down from his lofty perch and said, this time to the head of the Air Force, "You is having belly poppers, is you not?" "Is he being rude?" the head of the Air Force said. "He means helicopters," Sophie told him. "Then why doesn't he say so? Of course we have helicopters." "Whoopsie big belly poppers?" asked the BFG. "Very big ones. But no helicopter is big enough to get a giant like that inside it." "You do not put him inside," the BFG said. "You sling him underneath the belly of your belly popper and carry him like a portido. Like a what? Said the head of the Air Force. Like a torpedo, said Sophie. Could you do that, Air Marshal? The Queen asked. Well, I suppose we could, the head of the Air Force admitted grudgingly. Then get cracking, the Queen said. You will need 9 helicopters, one for each giant. Where is the place? The Air Force man said to the BFG. I presume you can point it on the map? Pinpoint? Said the BFG. Map? I's never hearing these words before. Is this Air Force being Tolkien/Bengal? The Air Marshal's face turned the color of a ripe plum. He was not used to being told he was Tolkien/Bengal. The Queen, with her usual admirable tact and good sense, came to the rescue. BFG, she said, can you tell us more or less where this giant country is? Can you see him? Okay. No, Magister, the BFG said. Not on my Nelly. Then we're jiggered. This is ridiculous, cried the Air Marshal. You must not be giving up so easy, the BFG said calmly. The first itchy obstacle you meet and you begin shooting, you is swift squiggler. The Army General was no more used to being insulted than the Air Marshal. His face began to swell with fury and his cheeks blew out until they looked like 2 huge ripe tomatoes. Your Majesty, he cried, we are dealing with a lunatic. I want nothing more to do with this ridiculous operation. The Queen, who was used to the tantrums of her senior officials, ignored him completely. BFG, she said, will you please tell these rather dim-witted chapters exactly what to do? A pleasure, Magister, said the BFG. Now, listen to me carefully. You 2 boot bucklers. The military men began to twitch, but they stayed up. I is not having the forgest idea where giant countries in the world, the BFG said, but I is always able to gallop there. I is galloping forwards and backwards from giant country every night to blow my dreams into little chitless bedrooms. I is knowing the way very well. So all you is having to do is this. Put your 9 big belly hoppers up in the air and let them follow me as I is galloping along. How long will the journey take? The Queen asked. If we is leaving now, the BFG said, we will be arriving just as the giants is having their afternoon snooze. Splendid, said the Queen. Then, turning to the 2 military men, she said, prepare to leave immediately. The head of the army, who was feeling pretty miffled by the whole business, said, that's all very well, Your Majesty, but what are we going to do with the blifters once we've got them back? Don't worry about that, the Queen told him. We'll be ready for them. Hurry up now, off you go. If it pleases Your Majesty, Sophie said, I should like to ride with BFG to keep him company. Where will you sit? Asked the Queen. In his ear. So then, BFG. The BFG got down one of his high chair. He picked Sophie up in his fingers. He swiveled his huge right ear until it was parallel with the ground. Then he placed Sophie gently inside it. The heads of the army and the Air Force stood there goggling. The Queen smiled. You're really rather a wonderful giant, she said. Master, the BFG said, I is wishing to ask a very special thing from you. What is it? The Queen said. Could I please bring back here in the belly poppers all my collection of dreams? They is taking me years and years to collect, and I is not wanting to lose them. Why, of course, the Queen said. I wish you safe journey. Tomorrow we will be reading the next chapter that is called Capture. Oh, will they capture the giants? We will see. Adios.